All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. So, welcome everybody. This is Chromebook Basics. I'm Lori, and then we have Susan. Many of you probably know Susan already. And we're both assistants in the Adult Services Department at the Hinsdale Public Library. Let me just move this little grid over so I could see. Okay. So here we go. We're going to get started. So before we really dive into the meat of this, I want to give you a little roadmap of where we're going to be going today. So I'm going to start out by talking about what a Chromebook is. Then I'm going to show you how to get started with the Chromebook, how to navigate the desktop, and then Susan's going to walk you through the Google Drive and G Suite apps working offline, pros and cons of Chromebooks versus other laptops, and then I'm going to wrap up by talking a little bit about some of the factors you might want to consider when you're choosing a Chromebook, if you decide that you would like to have one. And then, as Susan said, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to ask, but I'm also going to leave time for questions for both of us at the end. So what is a Chromebook exactly? So a Chromebook is a type of laptop computer, or some models, like a tablet can be. It's a little bit different than the types of laptops you might have seen before because it runs a totally different type of operating system. Instead of having Windows, which we've probably all seen, or one of the Mac operating systems, the Chromebook uses an operating system that's designed by Google. It is very similar to the Chrome web browser. If any of you have ever used that, you would probably feel pretty comfortable. The general idea behind a Chromebook is that it's kind of a stripped back version of a laptop computer. So it's meant to be very user-friendly, very intuitive, very simple to use, and just very straightforward. It's got an app-based design that's a lot like the way smartphones look today. So if you've ever used the Chrome web browser, you may have noticed that that is also kind of a very stripped back sort of version. It's very simple and straightforward. The Chromebook has the same sort of feel, but just applied to the whole computer. So first things first, let's talk about how you get started with a Chromebook. When you start working with a new Chromebook, the first thing that you'll see is a screen that looks like this. This is where you're going to pick the language that you want. For most of us, that's going to be English, but there's lots of choices if that's not your first language. And then after you select your language, I think it defaults to English actually for Chromebooks sold in the US. Then we're going to click this nice Let's Go button. And it's going to take you to this screen, just going to ask you to connect to a network. So one thing that you absolutely have to get started on a Chromebook is an internet connection. You can work offline. That's something that Susan will talk about later, but in order to set up a new Chromebook, you absolutely have to be able to connect to the internet. It doesn't have to be your home network. It can be any network. I've set one up while sitting at the library, but it has to be some network. Okay, and then once you're connected to the internet, if you already have a Google or a Gmail account, then you can just sign in to the Chromebook and it'll take you right to the home screen. If you're brand new to Google, then you are going to need to create an account with Google. So in order to do that, you would go to this section where it says more options. And then once you click more options, you're going to do create an account. And it's going to take you to something that looks a little bit like this, where you'll put in your first and last name, pick a username, pick a password, and then type the password again. essentially, to create your account. So once you've created that account, then, and like I said, if you already got a Google account, then you just need to sign in with your email address, the beginning and the password. Then you're going to be taken to the desktop screen. So this is pretty much what a Chromebook desktop looks like when it's brand new. It's pretty stark. You're going to type in your name, so it's not going to say howdy Rachel, it's going to say howdy whoever. And you'll notice that this layout looks a bit different than what you might be used to seeing on a PC or on a Mac, either desktop computer or a laptop computer. So there's really two main pieces here that are unique to the Chromebook, sort of, and that are things that you're going to want to know about. The first one is called the launcher. So the Chromebook has this nice little circle on the bottom of this bottom left-hand side of the screen. You can see that that's highlighted inside that red circle. This is essentially kind of like the menu button that you would find on a regular, on a Windows PC, or the start menu. This is kind of going to be your go-to everything sort of button. So if you click the launcher button, it's going to bring up this search bar that's at the bottom of the screen there. And from there, as that suggests, you can search your device. You can search the internet just like you were doing a Google search, or you can also search for different types of applications. So with the launcher expanded to this level with this little slit here, you're only going to be able to see the search bar and this row of apps at the bottom that I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you want to see all of the apps you have available to you, then you're going to want to click that little carrot looking arrow that's just above the search bar. And then your screen is going to look something like this. So this is what the Chromebook desktop looks like with that launcher piece expanded. And as I mentioned before, this really has an app-based design. So when you're looking at this, it probably if you have a smartphone, it has a lot of that smartphone look and feel, except in the computer format. Okay, so the next thing that is important to know about the Chromebook desktop is this piece called the shelf. The shelf is where you're going to find your frequently used apps. So by default on that beginning first screen, the only thing that was there was the Google Chrome web browser. But as you start to use a Chromebook and use the various apps, ones that you use a lot will show up here in this bottom bar. This is really kind of similar to if you have an iPhone, there's that little dock at the bottom where you can find, or where you can put apps that you use all the time and you always want to be there. Or it's also like pinning apps to the home screen on an Android phone. So unlike the launcher, which you can click the button to bring up and then you can click that carrot to expand, the shelf is always going to be visible at the bottom of your desktop. You can always see these apps whether you've got the launcher expanded or not. You can also customize what your desktop looks like. Somebody have a question?
I just got to figure out how to do sound.
Oh, okay. Are we all good? Or did we have a question? Okay. So you can also customize what's showing up here and what your desktop looks like. So let's say you don't ever use Twitter, which is the little bird. You don't have to have Twitter be anywhere in your desktop. So to do that, one thing, if you want to, let's say, add an app, so you do use Twitter or you do use Facebook and you want to be able to access that quickly, you can either search for that in the search bar, or you can click on that little arrow to expand the launcher, and then you will find the app that you're looking for from the list. So you can scroll down. A little note, the two dots on the right hand side of the screen there in the picture, it's telling you that there's 2 pages worth of apps to look at. So you may need to keep scrolling to find the one that you want. Once you find it, then you would, just like on the computer, right click, or if you're not using a mouse, it's a 2-finger click on your touchpad, and you can click on pin to shelf. And so that's going to put that app down at the bottom where you can easily find it. You can also remove things from your shelf in the same sort of method, but by clicking on install instead. All right. Any questions so far about what I've covered? Huh? Okay, so now I'm gonna let Susan talk a little bit more about Google Drive and the various G Suite apps.
All right. So one important thing to remember with a Chromebook is that when you're doing your computing, it's all on the cloud. Everything is cloud-based. So what that means is you are going to need to be connected to the internet, and the things that you're storing or that you're working on are not actually on the hard drive of your device. They are being stored in the cloud. And so that's one of the benefits or one of the drawbacks with a Chromebook, depending on your perspective. And we'll get to that further down the line. But Google Drive is Google's basically Google's hard drive. If you the Chromebook's hard drive, and if like I said, the Chromebook isn't going to be storing most of the apps on the machine itself. They're going to be stored in the cloud, and then you can access them from any device. All you need to do is log into your Google account. And so anything that you've done on your Chromebook will also be accessible from your laptop or from your desktop computers, from your phone, wherever you have internet connection. You just log into your Google account and you can access everything that's on your Chromebook. And so that's having your hard drive, which is your Google Drive in the cloud, makes it very accessible and very flexible for you. So you could use your iPad, you can use Android devices, Windows devices with your Google login and access this information. Some of the things that are on Google Drive are Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides, which I'll be getting into. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Photos, and these are all things that are part of the Google app suite. So let's start with Google Drive. Google Drive, think of Google Drive as your hard drive. The benefits are that you can access it anywhere. You can upload files to the drive from your Microsoft Windows, your Microsoft apps like Word or Excel. You can upload those to your Google Drive and work on them through the apps that are on the Google Drive. The native apps to Google Drive are, like I mentioned, they're Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. If you look at this picture here, this is a picture of Google Drive. You would, as Lori showed you on her desktop, this is the app right here for Google Drive. When you double click on that, this is what's going to open up. And you can see here, there are, if I had files here, they would be showing. This is the app for Google Docs. This is the app for Google Slides, and this is or Sheets, and this is the app for Google Slides. My drive would be like your hard drive. So you could double click on that and it would open up everything that you have stored on your Google Drive or your hard drive, your cloud drive. You can create folders just like you would on a Windows or an Apple machine. You can have folders within folders and organize everything neat and tidy however you want. You can throw things in the trash. You can star the important things. You can see the most recent documents or items that you've been working on. It's a very easy to use drive. It's very intuitive, and once you get started on it, you'll see it's very easy to use. The first time you access the drive, like I said here, it will be empty. And so you would click on New to get started, and then you would choose the type of document that you want to work on. You could choose a folder or a file that you want to upload from your another device. You can upload documents to your Google Drive from any computer. And for example, this slideshow that I'm working on, I created in a PowerPoint, but I uploaded it to Google Slides, and I'm using that right now. So if you work on something at home and at work in different formats, you can still upload it and access them from your Google Drive. So Google Docs is Google's equivalent of Microsoft Word, or what's the Apple? Well, Microsoft Word is what everybody knows. So this is your text-based word processing type app. This is what it would look like when you open up a brand new document. As you can see at the top, it says, untitled document. So you would click there to give your document a name, which is probably what you would want to do to start with. You can change the font. You can change the font size. You've got all of these features that they have on Word in terms of bold, ital, underline. You can change your font color, add bullet points. It's pretty much what you can do in Microsoft Word on a basic level. So Microsoft Word's desktop version, not the cloud-based version, but the desktop version, is a more robust app than Google Docs. However, for most basic word processing tasks, Google Docs is going to be more than adequate, and it does have some advantages over the Microsoft Word. First, as I mentioned before, you are able to access what you're working on from any device that is connected to the internet. You just simply log into your Google account, and Google Documents is right at your fingertips. You can access it from apps on your phone, from a desktop computer at work. It's very accessible. In addition, the word processing in Google Docs is pretty intuitive. And documents can also be downloaded into Word when necessary. So if you're working on something in Google Docs, you can export it into a Microsoft Word file. The other nice thing about it is that Google Docs is free. So you don't have to pay a monthly charge like you would to access Microsoft Word, which makes it great. It's also convenient. The other really nice feature of Google Docs is that it's very easy to share a document with others. You can share the document and you can be working with someone else in real time, and you can see exactly what they're doing with your document. If someone is editing it or making changes or making a comment, you can see it as they're doing it, which is a really nice feature of Google Docs, and it does it much better than Microsoft Word. You can also control different access levels when you share a document. So for example, if I want to share something with Lori, but I don't want her to be able to change it, I just want her to be able to comment on it, I can say that that's what I want to happen. If I just want to show it to her, I can also have that happen, so she can't even comment. If I want her to be able to get in and edit and make changes, I can also say that that's what I want her to do, and then she would have that ability. So it is, for in terms of collaboration, it's a very neat tool to be able to collaborate with others in a document. Google Sheets is very similar to Google Docs. It is the Google version of Excel. It's a spreadsheet app. Google Sheets and Excel are very similar in terms of the formulas and the calculations that you would use. Many features are the same. They both have data in the form of a table with rows and columns, and the formulas that you would use to create calculations are going to be the same. The main difference is if you're working with a large amount of data, then Google Sheets is going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to slow down the more data that you add to it. But if you're doing some simple calculating, some simple spreadsheet work, it's more than adequate. It is also pretty well optimized in terms of ease of use. It is better than Excel in that it is cloud-based, and so you can access your data from anywhere, just like with Docs. You can also access it from your phone. You can put an app on your phone. You can log into your Google account from your laptop or your desktop. And just like Docs, it has a very robust sharing feature. And again, this is one of the features I really like about Excel, because sometimes when you're working on spreadsheets, you don't want anybody to change anything. And so when you share with somebody, again, you can identify exactly what they have the ability to do. Do they just view your screen? Do they comment on things, or are they actually able to get in and manipulate the data? And as with Docs, any edits or comments that are made can be seen in real time. So you can quickly see what cells other users are working in, and you can keep track of every single change. Especially, you can click on last edit and it will show you exactly what has changed. As with Google Docs, Google Sheets is also free. So that's a nice feature. Google Slides is Google's version of PowerPoint. It's a slideshow app. As with all of the Google apps, it's designed to work in your browser, meaning you don't need to download anything to create a slideshow. And as with Docs and Sheets, Slides is easy to share. And again, it's maximized for collaboration. So you can identify exactly what your collaborators are able to do in the document if you share it with somebody. And I don't think I mentioned this before, but all of these apps have a feature here that says share. And so when you click on that, if you want to share it with somebody, you literally enter their email address in, and it will send them an email notification, and they just click on the link and it opens right up. And as with all of the other apps, Slides is easy to use, and it's free and accessible from anywhere. So you can collaborate and use it anywhere. A couple other features I just wanted to mention in terms of what you can do on your Chromebook. As with the iOS and Microsoft software, Google has its own calendar. Google Calendar is free with your Google account. One of the advantages of the Google Calendar is how easy it is to share. Just like all of the other apps, you can share your entire calendar with people, or you can choose, if you look over here where it says My Calendars, you can choose just one of these or two of these that you share with somebody. So if you don't want them to see your personal stuff, but you do want them to see your work stuff, it's very easy to choose what you're sharing with other people. Your Google Calendar is also available in a mobile app for your phone, and you can get that through iOS and Android. So that would link your Google Calendar from your Chromebook with your phone or your other devices. And since it is cloud-based, you can access it from anywhere that you're connected to the internet. You can also import events from other platforms. You can print your calendars, and then you can sync it with other apps such as Google Meet, which is Google's version of Zoom, which is, it's video conferencing. So if you set up a video conference, it will automatically be added to your Google Calendar. Google Photo is another app that will be on your Chromebook, and it's a cloud-based photo storage app. You can organize your photos in different ways. You can create albums based on topics, and then you can share that album with others. You can search by year. The photos automatically are organized by the date that they were taken. You can search by faces. So if you're looking for a particular person, there's a photo somewhere, then you can search your Google Photos for that particular face, and all of the pictures for that person will show up. It's similar to other photo apps on other devices. Google Photos, I believe the first 15 gigabytes of storage is free, which is quite a bit. It's a great way to share photos. If you are traveling and you take a trip, if you create an album of photos, you can share that with people while you're away, and they can see photos of your trip in real time as you're loading them into your Google Photos. You can also create a photo book from Google Photos and then print that, or have it printed as well. So the Google apps are pretty robust and pretty useful. You can also download some Android apps. And you do this through the Google Play Store, which is one of the apps on your Chromebook desktop. You just want to remember that Chromebooks are meant to be cloud-based, so they don't have a lot of memory. And Lori's going to talk about this a little bit later. So you're going to want to watch what you download to them. So if you think you want to download Android apps, you will want to make sure that you have at least 4 gigabytes of RAM. Some of the apps that you may want to consider downloading, Netflix is one of the most popular apps. Once you download it, you can log into your Netflix account and either stream movies or TV shows on your device, or you can even download them. If you are downloading video content, you will probably want to attach an external hard drive to store the videos on, because there is not a lot of internal storage on the Chromebook, since everything you're doing is pretty much cloud-based. If Google Docs doesn't really cut it for you, and Microsoft's online version, which you can't access on the Chromebook if you have a Microsoft account, if that's inadequate, then you can download the Android version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. You will have to have an Office 365 subscription, but they do still avoid that the Microsoft web-based version
this is like 8 or 9 years old.
offers.
Oh, uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So
Um,
what they call
If you
like
already use Evernote and you want to use it, you're able to download the Android app for Evernote to use that
So
on the
she's
Chromebook.
talking about as if this was like my phone,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, or
In addition, through the Google Play Store, you can download the Android mobile version of the Adobe suite, and that would include the Adobe Reader, Adobe Scan, and Adobe Sign and Fill. There are also a couple of other apps that you might want to consider downloading from the Google Play Store. One is Google Keep, and this is Google's note-taking service. Just like OneNote, and the Android version of Keep lets you view and work with notes, handwritten notes, even when you're offline. And this could be valuable, if you're traveling and moving along, then you can just take notes with Google Keep on your Chromebook. Another app that you might want to consider is Nebo. This is a $12 app, so it's not free, but it's not expensive either. And this is a note-taking app that is very handy if you are using a Chromebook that has a stylus that will allow you to just write on the screen, because you can just scribble your notes on your Chromebook screen and save them, and they will be converted to a Word document automatically. So those are just a few of the Android apps that you may want to consider downloading once you've gotten going with your Chromebook and are used to the Google apps, and to give yourself a sense of what else you can do with it. So even though it is a cloud-based, internet-based device, you are able to work on your different documents, whether it's a Word-based document in Docs or a spreadsheet or a slideshow in some of the other apps. You can work on those offline as well. While you're connected to the internet, you would want to make sure that you have enabled the app that you want to work in offline to be used offline. And so you would do this up here where this little cloud icon is. And once you've enabled it to be worked offline, then you can go ahead and work on your document offline. And when you are reconnected to the internet, it is automatically going to connect you to your cloud-based storage system, and everything's going to sync up, and your most recent changes will then be saved to the cloud. So let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits of a Chromebook. To start with, Chromebooks are less expensive than laptops. They can start as little as $150. They can go up to $1,000, but the $1,000 machine is going to be better than an equivalent priced laptop. It's probably going to have a better screen, a better lighter weight, better battery life, all of that. I would expect to spend at least around $200 for a basic Chromebook that will do the basic things of what you would like. Nearly everything, word processing, spreadsheets, note-taking, anything is done online via Google's Chrome browser. And pretty much everything you produce is going to get saved to the cloud. This means that Chromebooks don't usually come with much storage. They don't require a particularly fast processor, which in turn makes them pretty cheap compared to normal computers. They are cloud-based, which means that everything that you do can be done on any internet-connected device as well. So they're accessible. It also means that you're never going to lose your work because it is saved automatically. In addition, because the Chromebook isn't bogged down with a whole lot of internal processing, they're pretty fast. They're going to be faster than a lot of your laptop computers and your desktop computers. And because it's cloud-based, it just is more straightforward. And again, that leads to the speed of the machine. In addition, they typically have a longer battery life than most of your laptops. And that is because they're not running all the processes that your laptops are going to be running. And so the battery life is preserved. And that's particularly useful if you're going to be walking around carrying it with you on a trip or away from home somewhere. Typically, Chromebooks are also lightweight, and that is again because they have less tech inside. The exception to this is there are a lot of Chromebooks today that are being used in education. Those are not quite as lightweight because they are made with a very durable shell to protect them from banging around in a backpack. So you can get a more durable machine. It's going to have a little more heft to it in terms of its weight, but it will be much more durable and hold up to a lot of banging around. Chromebooks are typically very easy to use. As Lori showed, they're very simple to set up. They're very straightforward. But in addition, they have a lot of ports and you're able to connect different devices to them. And they're very intuitive. So if you've ever tried to hook up a wireless printer or anything to your laptop, sometimes you have to download drivers. You have to go through all sorts of hoops in order to get your laptop connected to whatever it is you're trying to connect it to. Not so with the Chromebook. Whatever you plug in there, it recognizes it and it's ready to go. So it's a much easier machine to use in a lot of ways than laptops if you just want something that's straightforward and knows what to do when you tell it to do something. In addition, there's no complicated system overlay like Windows or iOS. It is what you see is what you get. You see the apps in front of you, you click on an app and they open up. It's not a difficult system to understand and use at all. Google automatically will update your Chromebook for, I believe it's 6 years from the date that the Chromebook was manufactured. So when you're buying your Chromebook, you do want to make sure you get a Chromebook that has been manufactured relatively recently, so you can really take advantage of that 6-year period. But Google will just automatically update it as needed. You do not have to do anything in order to keep your device up to date. The other nice thing about it is that you can have multiple users using the same Chromebook. They would just log out of your Google account and log into their Google account, and then their docs and sheets and everything else pop up and are ready to go. In addition, you can access your Google information on multiple devices, as I've already said. So you can work on a doc from your phone, you can work on a sheet or a slide from your work computer, any device that is connected to the internet. You just log into your Google account and it's going to open up your everything that you've been working on your Chromebook. So it sounds like a Chromebook is a great machine and perfect for everybody, right? Well, there are a few negatives that I do want to bring up. The first is that you do have to have a Google account. And if you're opposed to that, then a Chromebook is not going to be the way to go because everything is tied to your Google account. So you do have to have a Google account. Second, you're using cloud-based apps. So while these are beneficial and you can access them from other devices using your Google account, they're free. They are somewhat stripped down compared to more robust desktop apps. So if you're used to using, for example, a desktop PowerPoint, you're going to find that the Google Slides is adequate, but it's not going to be as robust as the really full version of PowerPoint. Finally, Chromebooks are limited. So while they're great for basic computing, they're great for checking email, they're great for surfing the internet and doing basic work in text documents or spreadsheets or your slideshows, you're not going to be able to download software as much, the software that you're used to having on your laptop. And in addition, if you're looking to do graphic design or video or photography editing, the Chromebook is going to be very limited with what it can do. It's really best if you want to just do those basic computing and internet searches and checking email and things like that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Lori, who's going to talk about the different technical aspects of choosing a Chromebook.